Kia ora, good afternoon everyone. My name is Carly Tapu. I'm here, I'm joined with Jenny. You can introduce yourself actually.
I'm Jenny Rutherford, I'm the RMO unit manager.
My name is Tom Hoffman. I'm the Chief Surgical House Officer here at Waikato for this year.
Hi, I'm Grace. I'm a current PGY2 at Waikato Hospital. I trained at Auckland University and I grew up here in the mighty Waikato.
My name's Dylan. I'm one of the second year house officers working here at Waikato Hospital. I'm from Ngaruawa here. Grew up in the Waikato and trained up in Auckland.
So currently I'm working as a urology house officer, which is a pretty fantastic role here. It means I get lots of opportunities to go to clinics, theatre, ED and do procedural lists. I wanted to get a broad experience and I wanted the opportunity to do subspecialty runs. Waikato is one of the largest teaching hospitals in New Zealand and they offer lots of specialised runs you might not get to do at other places. For instance, this year I'm doing urology, ENT and vascular jobs, all of which have reputations as fantastic learning opportunities for house officers.
When it comes to specific things about our hospital, if that's sort of the motivating factor for why you want to choose a specific hospital to work at, Waikato's got some real cool draw cards in that sort of pool. It's got a real neat balance of urban and rural patients.
It's also just been accredited as the first level 1 major trauma unit in New Zealand, so there's a lot of really fantastic opportunity here.
Other things to think about would be like, how long do you want it to take you to get to work? I remember when I was studying, it took me like 45 minutes to get to work, and here halfway across town takes me like 10 to 15.
PGY1 was a busy year. There's a huge patient load here, so you've got to hit the ground running. The out of hours work can be really hard, but there's always support from registrars and SMOs. You're never left by yourself. And because you're exposed to such huge patient loads, you learn really quickly. Because it's the only tertiary centre for the entire Mid-North Island, we see a really wide range of cases and some pretty unique and interesting presentations of uncommon diseases.
Waikato Hospital has got this sweet balance between being just big enough that you get awesome exposure to specialties, which I reckon is real neat getting some experience in some of these different specialties, be it surgical, be it medical. But it's also just small enough that you get to know all of the RMOs here. I feel like we get to bond, get to hang out, meet each other in the RMO lounge or down at the cafeteria, and you do get a good sense of community.
Last year I got really into snowboarding since we're so close to the mountain. That's got to be one of my new favourite hobbies to have picked up. I love the beach. Raglan's so close and it's so beautiful, and there's just endless amounts of beautiful walks and waterfalls nearby, and yeah, a lot of awesome outdoor stuff to do down here.
One of the things that really sticks out to me about this hospital, especially when I hear about other people from other hospitals, and one of the things I'm proud about from here is that this hospital's made huge progress. Some of the lowest polling runs from house officers have just skyrocketed in their polls over the last, say, 2 to 3 years because of the hard work and dedication of the people above us in sort of management roles who are working hard to make the house officer job better. To know that my DHB cares enough for me, that it's willing to do this across multiple specialties is just amazing. And also to know that I can advertise to you guys that you could spend your first year working here as a house officer and that people would care about you and about how your experience is going to be, and that if you had feedback that it would be listened to. That's huge, and I really value that about here.
So I'm just going to do a quick little welcome to Waikato DHB, and then we'll probably do some questions and stuff. Jenny might want to say a few words. We'll see what happens. Okay, so there's a great picture of our hospital there of people running. So basically what I'm going to cover is just, a little bit about our Hamilton campus here, the RMO unit, clinical attachments that you can do as a PGY1 here. What PGY2 has set up for you here as well, preference selections and how that works, and then just a quick brief on recruitment process. Some fast Waikato facts. Hamilton was crowned the most beautiful large city in 2020. That was at the end of the year last year, so it's still the most beautiful city. Hamilton has 3 international sports venues, so the FMG Stadium, you can actually read this yourself. Cricket and the Claudelands Event Centre. Our population is around 169k, but that was as of June 2019. I actually think we've grown a little bit more since then. NZ European make up 3/4 of the population, with 90% of Māori. The city is home to 160 ethnicities, making up around 20%. Climate is mild, moderate year-round, and rainfall keeps the city and surrounding areas very green. We are home of the Chiefs, and they will win on the 8th of May. And there are many attractions to our region. So we have beaches and skiing and river rowing and cycling, and the universities are here. We used to have field days. I'm not sure we still do that since last year. There's balloons over Waikato and our Hamilton Gardens, and yeah, there's always lots going on in our area. It's a fun place to be. It's a great city. DHB is the main hospital is based in Hamilton, but under the Waikato DHB there are other small hospital sites under that umbrella. So we have Taumaranui, Te Kuiti, Thames, Tokoroa, and then yeah, so we have those little sites underneath us as well. We are around 600 beds in this hospital, not including the 200 in mental health. We also have 12 community-based attachments, which will become important to you in your second year. But I believe that we're leading for community-based attachments in the country. As a PGY1, you'll work only at the main Waikato site, which is good because you get all your support here. Yeah. Waikato DHB offers well-structured and well-planned postgraduate training for our PGY1 health officers. And there are many reasons why you choose Waikato. We have excellent senior and junior teaching staff, supportive atmosphere with friendly and flexible working environments, wide range of specialties on one campus, and loads of opportunities to learn procedures. The RMO staff are also helpful, and living here is really affordable as well. So we are quite an affordable place to live. I know because I moved from Auckland and I'm never moving back again. So it's a fantastic lifestyle here. I mentioned Waikato DHB PGY1 teaching. We actually have all this on our website. You know, if you don't want to go and source around, we provide protected formal education course teaching time weekly, 3 hours of protected training time weekly. I just said something. We use senior doctors or advanced trainees who are experts and advanced practitioners in their fields to present teaching topics, and we support career development and have a dedicated education training unit for this. Some DHBs call this a METU, which is a medical education training unit. Ours is called C2, and our RMO unit work quite closely with them to help you along your career pathway. RMO support service. So what do? We take care of the recruitment and rostering of the RMOs in the hospital. We have up to 500 RMOs at any time. Sometimes it's a bit more than that. We coordinate the PGY1 selection within the ACE process. We also do porphyry and orientations for our RMOs and that stuff. We manage in-house the allocation for all the health officer clinical attachments as well. We also do rostering for medicine and surgical health officers, managing their leave and release calls within our team. Our team is made up of 6 of us, yes, including our manager Jenny, who is here. So we have 2 rosterers and 3 recruiters. And here's the picture of some of them. So on the left, from the left to right, is Pauline, who is our recruitment advisor, and Jenny is in the middle, and on the right is Rebecca, who is our medicine rosterer. Here's another picture too, because that's Kevin, who's our CEO. And that was on the evening of one of our career evenings. There you go. The other ones wouldn't let me take pictures of them. They were too shy. Recently, from our recent review of it's the RDA review, here were some of the things that came back from that review. The RMO unit will try their best to aid with any issues and items such as leave requests, claims are processed quickly. The RMO lounge is large, has comfortable lazy boys, Sky TV, including rooms and sports and computers. There's a kitchen with basic facilities, frozen meals kept there for nights on call, and we have a number of sleep rooms with beds. Being a large hospital, there are enough staff that means usually not having to give up too many evenings, weekends or nights. And yeah, that's a lot. That's really good feedback from them. For your PGY1 clinical attachments, your choices look like this. And yeah, so we have 10 allocations for your PGY1 year, and you'll do 4 of those in your first year. When you are selecting a preference, we usually send out something like this. Once we've employed you, of course. Send out something like this, you would rank with what your choices are, and we would try to match you as closely as we can to your choices, but we do them in blocks to make sure that you've got a well-balanced run for your first year. So you may not get all of your preferences, which is why we ask for a 5th, so that we can try and get as many as we can. Cool. Recruitment process is actually very simple because of the ACE process. They take care of all the pre-employment stuff for us. Once ranking is completed and you have been matched to us, we will make contact with you. We do interviews by phone. Unless you're here and you want to come pop down and see us, that's also fine as well. We'll give you a call and you want to come down. I believe nationally all offers go out on the 6th of September, and there was that timeline that Quentin had at the beginning, and we will follow that timeline together. We hire directly off the ACE talent pool. So if you're a candidate and you're concerned that you're not going to get matched for whatever reason, just to let you know that Waikato, if we have a vacancy, we take from the ACE talent pool. So if you end up on that talent pool list, it's highly likely we would call you if we had a vacancy. Okay. So yeah, come and join us. Come join us here. It's a great place. It's a great city. Look at the hospital at night. It's just stunning.
So my name's Jenny. I'm the RMO unit manager. I've had come from a lot of experience with managing RMO units, and I'm relatively new to the Waikato myself, and coming up from Wellington. So I guess my first take on the hospital is that it's not windy here and the weather's great. I was also really impressed with the engagement with the RMOs, and especially in relation to the RMO Council, when they engage well with PGY1s, and I think they have a representative of PGY1s or 2. Yeah. And recently at that council, they also are just starting to reignite the RMO Social Club, which we're going to be looking forward to. Another thing that I think is really attractive about coming to the Waikato is that they have short notice relievers, which is basically relievers that are kept to the side, and if somebody rings in sick, then they're allocated out as they call in sick. Not all DHBs have, not a lot of DHBs don't have short notice relievers, which can put additional pressure on the remaining RMOs and the use of often cross cover. And the only thing I wanted to add about clinical attachments was that basically in the PGY1 year, we're trying to align with the medical council requirements. So usually there'll be, you might have a tendency towards surgical runs, but you still need to have one medical run to, because we're trying to have that balance. So that's probably the only things that I put there. Introduce yourself and give your experience. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So kia ora everyone, my name's Tom. I came to Waikato as a TI, and I've stayed here for my PGY1 in 2 years, and we'll stay here next year as well. Look, I mean, you've heard lots of people say great things already about Waikato, so I don't need to harp on too much, but I'd just reiterate the fact that certainly talking to, I've got a lot of friends up in Auckland and some down in Wellington, and I think one of the things that stands out a lot when I compare myself to them is just the relationships that the doctors have here, particularly as junior doctors, with the management here and with other senior doctors. We all get along very well here, and I think we've had to make a strong effort to do that, particularly in the last couple of years. And I like what Jenny was saying. The great thing here is that the RMOs and the RMO unit tend to get along really well, and they're very, very supportive in career development and trying to do the best that they can for you. So I've felt incredibly well supported with my career aspirations, and they've kind of helped me out all along the way. And I think in terms of clinical experience here, as Dylan said in that video, the awesome thing about this DHB is that it's large enough that you get exposure to a lot of different things that you might not get in a smaller DHB, but it also there's a little bit more of a friendly feel, a little bit more focus on teaching. That means that you get the opportunity to actually do a lot of practical stuff here as well if you came to. So I think it's just an awesome balance, and yeah, I love it here. It's a great place to work.
So we'll be looking at 42 PGY1 positions next year. That's a rough, going off what we did last year. Oh, depends what you want. For like a normal house.
Like renting, you mean renting?
Yeah, I'd assume renting, and probably just to add on to that question as well is the ease of which to find rental properties or flat sharing arrangements in Waikato, and also whether or not you would have hospital accommodation provided as well. So if you can just
sure.
Take a look.
So we do provide your first 2 weeks of accommodation is covered while you're looking for somewhere to stay. Normal accommodation prices for your average depends if you're going to go flatting and share a house, then you're looking at between about $500 a week or something.
What would you say?
Well, I need to look.
Yeah.
Having it to actually.
Apparently, after 1 year of being a PGY1, you can buy a place. I mean, housing's tricky anyway. I know that it's easier here than it is in the busier cities, but you're looking at an average, I think, at 3-bedroom is around the 500 mark. What was the other thing?
What I would say about, one really good thing, I imagine most DHBs have had this, but the RMOs at the hospital that you're employed at often have a Facebook page, and what's really handy is that as they're moving around, they tend to put up their properties for rent, because they're moving out. So generally people, like there's a bunch of flats that are around the hospital that just tend to get handed down to different RMOs when everyone's switching over. So what I'd encourage you to do is wherever you get a job, just Facebook search the RMO, just put like RMOs for whatever hospital you're in, and there'll be a Facebook page most likely, there certainly is one here, and just apply to join it, and then people will put up their properties on there for rent. So that's a good way to do it. And then normally, yeah, ideal location, all that kind of stuff. So.
Cool. Is there any preference for Auckland over Otago? About this, yeah. We don't come all.
Yeah, no preference given.
Yeah.
So,
any advice? We do have Australian graduates. It's actually very easy. We had 3 Australian grads last year, And I think any advice, oh gosh, just in life in general. No, just communicate with us. So if you're coming from Australia and you get matched to us, just talk lots and we'll help you along that journey. I think with the last Australian grads that we did have, their hurdle was just moving really, just the transition from there to here, and we help with that too.
Yeah, and just one thing I'll add as well is that for Australian graduates is to detail in your cover letter to Waikato the reasons why you would like to work for their particular district health board. Note other things as well, such as any family connections that you might have to the area, and also other things. There might be specialist areas within the DHB itself that you would like to work for. So the more detail that you can give to our recruitment team, the better. I think that's all I was going to say with regards to that. The other thing as well, I'm not too sure, Kalia, whether or not you would be open to our Australian graduates who are usually Kiwis coming back home
Kiwis that studied in Australia, so that's usually how they end up being matched with us.
Yeah,
I believe. Yeah. So,
are they able to contact you by email or by phone directly if they just wanted to do questions?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm quite contactable.
Great.
Yeah. What's the next one? In the instance that we are placed in talent pool, should we reach out and contact you for employment opportunities? If you're in the talent pool and we've had TIs that are in the talent pool and they've popped down and told us, and I don't mind that because they're already doing their training here at our hospital, so they kind of, belong to us anyway, in a sense. You can contact us. We would likely pick off that talent pool list though, so you wouldn't necessarily get bumped up the top of that list because you made contact, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I've always also encouraged our category 3s that are in the talent pool. Probably it may be best if you are going to contact any of our DHBs around the country just to perhaps pop an email first, and that can be helpful when there are future positions after the intake starts.
Sure. Do the next one.
I can have the next one. So the hours 8 to 4. Is this realistically happen normally? I think I can be honest and say that you wouldn't be finishing at 4 o'clock on a regular basis. Is that fair to say? Or
Yeah,
depending on what run you had really?
Yeah, really depending on the run. I mean, there's as with any hospital, we get quieter runs and busier runs. I think, for example, general surgery, doesn't matter where you do it, where you're working, is a pretty busy run. So no, you wouldn't be finishing at 4 o'clock regularly on a run like that. But then there's other runs where you might be finishing a little bit earlier than 4 as well. It's certainly not uncommon to have days where you might finish at 2 or 3, and particularly it works well if you've got an offsider where someone else that you work together in on the same team, and one of you might stay on till the time you need to finish and hand over, and the other one can leave early. So it's pretty variable. It's not a blanket rule. I'd say in general though, they work pretty hard here. If there are issues around busy rosters and people finishing late, the RMO unit is very receptive to making changes to that and getting fixing that issue. So
and RMO council.
And the RMO council, getting the council involved. So that was pretty good.
This leads on to, what do the rosters look like for PGB ones? How often will we be working weekends, nights, long days? Most rosters you won't have nights for your first 6 months, so if that helps you. So no nights for your first 6 months. You get
so that again is a little bit same answer as previously. It really depends which roster that you're actually on. depends on how often you have weekends and nights. From the rosters that I've seen, I don't feel that they're onerous. And, you know, certainly if they were, or if there were fatigue issues, then we would be more than happy to address any concerns that were raised.
Yeah, I was just trying to think back to my rosters last year. I think generally you could expect over a 13-week run, you'd probably have 2 to 3 weekends and maybe 5 to 6 long days, something like that. You normally do, it's roughly works out to be about a weekend a month and a long day every 2 weeks. One long day, every, 12 to 14 day span. So yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty reasonable.
Most of our doctors stay, yeah. We most of our junior doctors stay on and do their whole house officer thing. It's usually only if they've got a partner or something in another town that they want to move to or something like that, takes them away. But otherwise, most house officers that join us stay right up until becoming regis. Yeah.
Only leave because it's a requirement of training and something like that. So, which is a really good sign.
Yeah.
I'll just read out that question, just in case some of the audience didn't quite get that. It was how many PGY1s opt to stay into PGY2 at Waikato, and do you intend to retain your junior doctors? So you've answered that. Thank you.
Are there certain PGY1 runs which typically overprescribed? If so, which ones? I don't know. No, I think so.
What do you think, Tom? Overprescribed. You mean too many PGY1s?
Popular runs.
It's different, actually. I've noticed that we have favourites of the year. So one year, one particular run will be the favourite, and another year it's another one. I don't know why.
I would say as a general rule, cardiology is probably pretty popular as a PGY1. But otherwise, yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag, really. I would say in general, people don't tend to want to do rehab or mental health, but I would say that's probably pretty similar at most of the DHBs.
It's actually been changing as well. We've noticed we've had a lot of interest in people actually requesting psych runs.
Yeah, people that want it specifically.
Yeah, so but I agree. In the past, it has usually been something. Yeah, so it's quite interesting.
I think generally though, what I would say is that for most people, like if you've got a run that you really wanted to do, you'll probably get it. Like if you put it in there as your #1 priority, you've got a pretty good chance of getting your #1 priority on there. You might not get some of your other ones, but if you put down that one,
you usually get your first and your second or something, or your first and your third.
Yeah.
Pay increase for first years is around C and D for the first 6 months. By the second 6 months, you might get your B here or there. That's because you can't do nights in your first 6 months. Okay, that's for that question. What's the pay gap rate?
Just to add on to that, there's another question beneath that says, how does that change with nights and relief work?
PGY1s don't do relief work at our hospital.
But if they did do relief work, like once you get into the PGY2, then it's paid as per both NECAs, which is 2 categories above.
I don't know if I can answer that question, because if it's referring to PGY1s applying for here, we don't really see who's requested to be here specifically or selected Waikato. So I'm not sure I can answer that question. We definitely get a lot of house officer expressions of interest from other DHBs. I get non-stop emails of other house officers wanting to come to our DHB, but when we're full, we're full.
So in other words, you wouldn't normally be over allocated for PGY1 year, but
no,
PGY2 there could be over allocations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the next one's for you.
Do you feel well supported by student staff? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's probably one. Like I did my first couple of years as a student, 4th or 5th year in Auckland, at Auckland DHBs. And certainly, I think what you really notice working down here is that people are just a little bit more friendly and laid back, and that there's not so much hierarchy that goes on here. So yeah, I would say definitely, yeah, very, very friendly senior staff. There's always the odd personality here and there when you work in a big organisation, but I would say by and large, it's yeah, people very friendly.
Where can we look for information on registrar jobs, requirements to have our plan, PGY1 grants, areas of required?
Yeah, so I can answer, well, I can answer a bit of that.
Yeah.
In terms of, you're absolutely right. This is something that we're actually trying to sort out at the moment, because it is a bit of an issue with people wanting to plan surgery careers and not being able to do an ED run as a PGY2, you know, having to wait for PGY3. So we hope to have that actually rectified by next year at the earliest, or if not the year after. Essentially, it's just around getting enough ED bosses to supervise PGY2s. But yeah, so that's something that we're working on in terms of ED stuff. As to where you can look for information on registrar job requirements, what I would recommend you do is look on the, like if you're interested in surgery, for example, look on the college website, on the RACS website. That's what we all use when we're planning stuff. And they're pretty clear in their requirements about what you need. So as you've probably already read up, you need to have done 3 months of ED. So that's what I would recommend. It doesn't change depending on what DHB you're at. So it's all based around either the RACS or the equivalent for medicine.
Roughly the ratio of Otago to Auckland grads. Quarter, we had 1 quarter Otago about intake last year, and 3/4 Auckland. Okay. And the last question, I don't know.
Paper at the moment.
Unfortunately, it needs to be electronic. So there's some work happening in the background with that, but at the moment, unfortunately, it is paper based.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Kalia, Jenny, and Tom. That was an excellent presentation, really detailed, and presented in a way I think that's quite clear for the TIs as well, and it'll be valuable for those who are watching later on Facebook, YouTube, and on our website. Some really good questions from our TIs as well, a good range of questions there. So I hope that answers everything that you have. You know, just to let all of you know that if you do have any further questions that are related to Waikato DHB, get in touch with our team. Their contact details are on the ACE RMO website. So, kia ora team, thank you very, very much. Any last words?
Bye.
See ya.
Okay, ka kite anō. Take care of yourselves.